Greetings to all our viewers. My name is Clark Dominic Alipasa, and I will be your Integrated Language Arts and Multiliteracies teacher for today. So, what we will have today is a piece which has been awarded in the Carlos Palanca Memorial Awards for one act play in 1973. So this play is not just a usual play, it is an awarded, it is recognized. So we have reserved the best for you today in this lecture or in this demonstration teaching. But before anything else, let us not forget to pay attention to God and to thank Him for all His blessings before we start. Let us remember that we are in the presence of God. Dear God, you never said it was going to be easy. You simply said, trust me. My faith is strong and I give myself to you. I will live this life with gratitude, appreciating every little thing, its difficulties and pleasures. For all this and more, I am grateful. Amen. So again, greetings to all of you here. So right now, I am sure that all of you are paying attention. All of you are ready to listen for our activity. Okay? So the first activity that we will have is a listening task wherein you have to listen intently to what you will hear in the background, and you're going to answer some of the questions that I may ask orally. I hope you can hear the first sound, or actually the sound in the background. What do you think is that sound? Or where is that sound coming from, right? Or who are doing this? Who are creating this sound? Next is, what do you feel whenever you hear this sound? What kind of feelings do you have when you hear this? For example, you are alone in a quiet subdivision, or you are traveling in the city, usually late at night, and then you will hear these things. What do you feel? What comes to your mind when you hear this? Do you feel excited? No? Do you feel worried? Anxious? Do you also feel nervous when you hear this sound? But the most interesting question is, what do you think is the reason people are doing this? Let's say the riders are doing this. Why do they find enjoyment or pleasure in doing these things? Example, racing or speeding up their motorcycle, revving up the engine. Is there a feeling of satisfaction or fulfillment that they feel? Why do you think they're doing that? Certainly, we have different interpretations and great answers to those questions. And hopefully, it has led you to a deeper motivation, interest, or curiosity about what we will have today. So today, we will discuss the play entitled Go Rider by Azucena Grajo-Uranza. So, an awarded play or one-act play in the Carlos Palanca. So I have also sent you the copy of the Go Rider. And if you haven't finished reading it, since I gave you the copy for a few days ago, you can also find the link to the Google link or the link to the Google Drive that will lead you to the copy of the pages of that play here in MS Teams. Once we upload this in YouTube, you can also see the link in the description, okay, of the YouTube, so that you can read the play yourself. You can also participate in the interpretation, and of course, you will have a better understanding of the story. Before we discuss any literary piece, teachers usually present some words that are interesting. There are more words that we may learn or we may find peculiar or unfamiliar in this piece, but here are some of them. I may divide you into three groups. And then first group, you have to look for the word diffidence in page 270. I'll also help you. So what you're going to do is look for the word, and then after that, define using context clues, even without using dictionary or looking up for the word online. Define it in your own words, and then later on, try to use it in your own sentences. I may ask you to use it or to construct a sentence using that word, based on the context, of course. Group 2, you will have the word disinclined, and group 3, viril. What are the meaning of these words? Define them based on context clues, and then use them in a sentence. For example, for group 1, for diffidence, it's found on page 270 if you already have the copies. You can now bring out your copies or click the Google Drive link that I sent you, or that you'll find in the description for you to follow. Page 270, diffidence. Let me read. In Lirio, there's a kind of diffidence as she looks about the room. What do you think is that diffidence? This is the first time she has come to Bobby's house. Bobby is her girlfriend. Bobby is her boyfriend. And what is that feeling that you will have if it is your first time into someone's house? She walks diffidently. It's another transformation of the word. Around the room for a while and then takes a seat on the sofa. So what do you think is the meaning of the word diffidence? Is it a kind of feeling? Is it what you feel if it's your first time in someone's house? Especially if that someone is really special to you. Let's say your boyfriend. Just like in this case, this is Lirio's first time in the house of Bobby and the first time to meet his parents. So what kind of feeling is diffidence? Can you also use that in a sentence? All right. The same goes to group 2 and group 3. They will also try to define the meaning of the word assigned to them and use them in their own sentence later on. For our next activity, before we proceed to the main discussion, you can answer these questions in your opinion, in your own words, even without textual evidence. Even you have not fully read the story yet. You will just tell me if you agree, you disagree, somewhat agree, somewhat disagree. You can type in your answers in the chat box. You can use the chat box, you can use a conversation, or you can type it in the comments below. If you agree, disagree, somewhat agree, or somewhat disagree to the following statements. These statements are themes from the story. They may be considered as some of the controversial messages in the story. For example, we'll read, parents continually have the right, authority, and responsibility to interfere with, control, and manage their children's personal lives. You can read that again. And then you can react. Do you agree with that? That parents always have the right and the authority? Or do you disagree? Or if you say you somewhat agree, why? You can also include your reason in our conversation box below, or you can find the button where you can type. You somewhat disagree, you don't agree to the fullest extent, you may also explain why. All right, please use the chat box or the comment section below. There are other themes which you may also react to, but we may skip for the meantime. You may just leave your answers below Okay? Thinking and preparing for the future should always be the priority. This is second theme. Tell me your thoughts about this. What are your insights? You can also share your experience. Of course, what you have, what you feel at this moment may be different from what others feel. You may also change your mind or realize something in a few minutes, especially during or after discussion. It's okay. What matters most is you tell us and your viewers if you disagree, you somewhat disagree, and then you may indicate your reason. Your reason is something that will be very valuable to us for the interpretation. Lastly, children's utmost trust and obedience to their parents' discernment are highly important. Do you agree with this? If your answer is agree, type in agree with your answers to the question, why do you agree? Or if you disagree, why do you disagree? I'll be waiting for your answers. All right? And the way you explain them, the way you logically state your response as to why you agree or disagree will be helpful to our upcoming discussions. All right? Choose the themes, okay? Type in your reaction to that certain theme plus your reason. So in our story, we just have a recap. So before we have this lesson, we talked about skimming and scanning. You have your copies with you, you have the Google Drive links. You may just skim and scan for important information, especially if you need textual evidence to support your answers. If there are some questions that I'll be asking, you can look into your copy and use the techniques that we learned in the previous lessons. Next, context clues. Well, we can also use this skill in our lesson or this discussion today because there are some words or keywords or issues that we will present, then you will interpret using the context clues or the words or sentences surrounding it based on the context, based on the situation being presented. And lastly, we also talked about making inferences. Okay. So even without the main facts or information, you can predict, you can use your own knowledge plus the context clues and any ideas in the text that you have in order to create inferences. They must be logical, they must be based on evidence, whether it is your experience or on the text. I hope you already know our characters for today. If not, we have the main character, Bobby Alvarez. He's a good rider. He loves riding. He loves using his motorcycle. And like what we heard in the song, we already had an idea about how Bobby spends or enjoys being or using his motorcycle. As what we have said, Bobby is also unexperienced. If we cannot conclude that or infer that he's a talented rider. His father is Bert. He has so many plans, so many ambitions for Bobby. Probably some of these ambitions and plans were his. Or if it will also be your same interpretation, were also his own desires, own plans, okay, in his lifetime or in his own life. We can say from his childhood, her mother, supportive mother. However, her mother is also supportive and loving, gentle to Bobby and his father, usually serving as a mediator with at times conflict. But when it comes to intervening or making decisions when greater conflicts arise, like what will happen in the story, this is something that we may question about her personality or her character. Next is Lirio, Bobby's girlfriend, whom his parents never met. So in this story on display, this will be the first time that Lirio will be introduced by Bobby to his parents. What do you think is the reason? And lastly, Jimmy, his most trusted and loyal friend, say since childhood, especially in high school. You know the characteristics of close friends. He knows everything about you. Jimmy knows Jimmy knows the personality and the traits of Bobby very well for a very long time. That's why he will be very helpful in the progression or in the development of the plot or of the story. So let's now talk about this. Let's now proceed to the discussion. This play is a very significant and relevant play to talk about, although it was written in the 70s or 80s, particularly during the time of martial law. There are still issues that are still standing as relevant to our modern times or to our present day in the present day. So these are some of them. There are three here in the slide. Can you interpret the social issues represented by the symbols? Number one, what do you think does that symbol stand for? You can see the tummy of the lady or of the woman. I'm sure that you have correct answer. But how does this become an issue? Let's say the lady bears a child or has a child in her womb. Is that a societal issue? Yes, there's a particular type of that which can be considered as an issue, especially in our country, the Philippines. Next, there's being heartbroken inside her womb. This is what we consider as the second social issue. What do you think does this represent? The greater phenomenon or alarming phenomenon or issue that we have. Are you pro or against it? And lastly, yes, we may say death, but when it comes to semicolon, of course, some of us are familiar with it. It is not. It is the symbol used by by the advocates against this. It should not be the end. What kind of death is a social issue? Of course, natural death can hardly be considered an issue. What kind of death? Natural death, when you say that it's your destiny when your time comes. But when does it become an issue? Let us support the answers with textual evidence. First, for the first issue, what type of pregnancy is portrayed? Let us read an excerpt or a part of the play. Bert, in a cold voice full of anger, said, "Stand up!" Then Lirio, Bobby's girlfriend, stands up very slowly and scared as Bert examines her from head to foot. Then Bert addresses Bobby with a cold fury, controlled at first. "You've got this girl on trouble." Because Bobby and Lirio wanted to be married at once, to be married as soon as possible. This is just the first time that Lirio met his parents. They also wanted to go to the province, even though they are still studying in college. What do you think happened to Lirio, which is true to our present condition, which is one true issue that we are experiencing? Is it unwanted pregnancy? Is it unplanned? Especially if it is teenage pregnancy, when you are not in the age wherein you can be considered ready financially, emotionally, or even physically. Your body is not physically fit for an early pregnancy. What are your thoughts about this? For sure you have known anyone, you have thoughts about this. We'd appreciate if you can share your thoughts with us. You can use the comment section. Another social issue, what do you think is that? Being heartbroken, being killed inside the womb. And this is the excerpt. But Bert said, the father, here, holds out the bills to Bobby. Take this. Get a good doctor. There's money enough for that one who can fix her up properly so that nobody need ever know. So what is that something that Bert doesn't want the people to know? What is that act that will conceal or that will need money to fix her up, to fix Lirio up, so that no one will ever know or will ever find out about her pregnancy? Then Lirio, the girl, answered. She stood up, she answered, "Murderer! You're not fit to be Bobby's father." She's hurt. Using the inference or the context clues, what do you think is Bert suggesting about? What is his advice, and is it a good advice in your opinion? Will you be in favor of that idea or suggestion or not? What can you say about this Bert's decision to take out the bills and to tell Bobby or to instruct Bobby to do such a thing? And then after that, Bobby and Lirio hurriedly left out of the house. He left the crash helmet on the table. As it says on page 276, the crash helmet Bobby has dropped on the side table. His mother found it on the table. He left it. What do you think does it signify? When you're going to ride the motorcycle, you're going to revving up, you're going to go somewhere because you're angry. Are you going to leave the helmet? Is the helmet something you consider important in the first place? So why would Bobby leave it? He intentionally left it on the table before they left. Will it mean something? Will it lead to the third situation, or the third social issue that we will infer from this excerpt? From his friend, closest friend, Jimmy. This is what Jimmy told them during the funeral of Bobby and Lirio, because they had been in a vehicular accident. They both died. Jimmy revealed to Bobby's parents, "Mr. and Mrs. Alvarez, I hurried after them and yelled for them to wait for me. But Bobby was driving along pell-mell, confused, and never heeded my call. Suddenly, a speeding truck appeared ahead. And Mrs. Alvarez, believe me, that was no accident." So if the death of Bobby and Lirio was not an accident, while they were hit by a truck while riding their motorcycle, what is it? And what is the third societal issue that is being revealed by this, which is prevalent not only in our country, but worldwide? So it has happened, this story, it is something to ponder on in the story. What can you say about ending one's life intentionally? I think we cannot call it purposively, since if there's any purpose, it is really dark. So what are your thoughts about this? I'm sure you have your opinion about this. Can we justify their actions? Can we ever support or be in favor of what Bobby and Lirio did? Is it? Yes, it is certainly because of what they heard or what they felt after his father, Bert, told those things and those words to him. And then Jimmy also found in the pocket of Bobby a sheaf of crumpled bills. This was the one given by Bobby. Why do you think Bobby would crumple it? If you crumple the money, okay, he'd ignore the money. Is it because they didn't really want the idea provided by birth? And lastly, on that sheaf of money, there's something written on it. Jimmy, after the death of Bobby and Lirio, showed this to his parents. Bobby wrote on the sheaf of crumpled bills, "My baby is not for sale." So that is almost the end of the story, but another denouement is coming. There's another ending of the story. What do you think? Bert, the father, and his mother Annie felt upon learning this revelation, upon hearing the revelation by Jimmy, that Bobby and Lirio's death was not an accident. What do you think is a good ending of the story? Is it Bert, the father, would feel guilty? He didn't even seem so. Or would his father change his thinking or his paradigm in seeing things and live a better life? But to reveal the denouement, for what happened towards the end of the story is that his father locked himself inside a room and shot himself with a gun. So it's another ending of one's life intentionally. Or in other words, without any natural cause. Bert, his father, ended his own life. Like what Bobby and Lirio did along the highway. So that will be the end of the discussion. But before that, I'm going to give you an assessment or assignment that you may submit in our next meeting. You're still divided into 3 groups, right? So for the 3 groups, group 1 will create a song. Group 2 will draw a comic strip. And group 3, a human tableau. It's like a paint me a picture. You'll be presenting this next meeting and you will explain using textual evidence. When you explain, you always have to support it with words from the text. You can also submit your words in Google Classroom. So for group 1, what are you going to do? Select a song that you will sing. So next meeting, you're going to present, you will sing in front of your classmates or here virtually. What song will you dedicate to Bobby's loved ones or family members, father and mother in his funeral? Then after singing, members of the group will explain the message. Use use textual evidence or words or lines from the story that will support your explanation or that you will mention in the explanation of the message. Group 2, you are going to draw a comic strip, okay? Or let's say infographic, okay? Let's say draw a comic strip or infographic of the moves or decisions that Bobby and Lirio should have considered instead of suicide. Should they have another plan? Or should they, if not just overwhelmed by their emotions of wrath and anger towards Bert, can there be any other suggestions that you can provide to Bobby and Lirio and his girlfriend Lirio? Please let us know using an infographic that we'll be presenting next week that you'll also explain. And lastly, paint me a picture. If you can change one scene in the story, so paint me a picture, you make a tableau of that, representing that scene, and then one member of the group will enter and will try to talk to one of the characters. Some students will choose the scene wherein Bert is handing over the money to Bobby. So the characters will not be moving, it's a paint me a picture. Then one character will explain or will question. We'll talk to Bert while Bert is not moving, of course. Bert, why did you do that? Why did you consider that? So if you can talk to one of the characters in one point of the play, what is that? Show that scene using a tableau, and then one or some members of the group will enter, okay, to question the character's decision and to explain. Always remember textual evidence, exact words, if possible, from the text should support your explanation rather than just pure emotions and opinions of us readers. And then for the following meeting, when we're done, so this can be done 2 weeks from now, let us try, each group can try to produce a 20-second commercial showing the deeper message of this story. It's like a commercial that we will air on TV. We don't have much time because, of course, it is expensive, it is being paid. What message would you like to say to our viewers, to all our, let's say, subscribers? So you are going to create a commercial and upload it here in Google Classroom or in our Facebook group as well. So that's all for today. We know how hard to control our feelings or emotions. It is easy to be said than done, especially when we are feeling deep emotions, greater feelings. But we have to accept the fact that these emotions are really temporary. They don't last long. Let us try our best. We cannot really order someone to how to feel or to feel what they should feel because it's natural. But living in the calm, if we can still decide, if we can still take a step towards the calmness and not the storm, let us choose to be calm, okay, than to be violent, than to be rude. Emotions are temporary. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something today, and may you have a great day. See you again next time. Bye-bye.